and welcome to AxCon 2024 to all of you. Nearly 1/6 of people in this world, 1 in 6 people, have a disability. That is 1.3 billion people worldwide. Each square that you're seeing represents 100 million people. Now, next, a key component, a constant that connects us to others as people in general is trust. And the same is true for consumers and company connections. When you make decisions, who do you trust? Well, research has shown that 79% of our decisions are influenced by friends and family. Now, we may go in the middle, consider other sources, but friends and family far outweigh celebrities and influencers. So next, now, let's say every person with a disability is closely connected to 4 other people in the world. And let's say they influence less than half of them. So now that 1.3 billion influences, say, 2 billion. Suddenly, now we're closer to 1/3 of the world's population. That is why digital accessibility is now global, and why nearly 30,000 of you are attending AxCon 2024. And why digital accessibility is a worldwide movement today. 126 countries, half the countries in the world, are represented here in you, the AxCon attendees. So 70% of you are first-time attendees of AxCon 2024 and probably new to accessibility. Wayne Gretzky, a famous ice hockey player, once said, "Skate to where the puck is going, not where it's been." And all of you are obviously seeing the acceleration of accessibility shifting from the physical to the digital world. And the digital world moves exponentially faster. So welcome, and we have many sessions for you. Now, next, we see the rest of you have been part of the movement for a while. The early adopters, the trailblazers. The great Mahatma Gandhi, as he looked back at the revolution he had started, said, first, they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. You may be at different stages of your accessibility journey, and we have something for you, whoever you are, wherever you are. Whether you're creating something in your organization out of very little and need to build a business case, or need to understand how you can better coordinate your accessibility efforts, or you're winning and have that story to tell. This is your opportunity to play a role and share what you know. All of you enjoy the conference. Now I'll tell you a little story. About 15 years ago, we took on the task of making accessibility mainstream in North America by automating it. And that was after I had spent 10 years working alongside governments and large organizations who were early adopters of digital accessibility in the US and Canada. I did assessments and testing for them. So I was supposed to know, and I helped create the standards. So I was supposed to know a little bit about the standards and how to test for them. I started with Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 1.0 and automated the testing of all the techniques, all the rules, and released our flagship product. A few years later, late one night, as I was looking at some data, I had a realization. Statistically, the tools that I had spent about 12 years developing with 100% coverage found 200% of the issues. Wow, how can that be? Well, half the issues we were reporting were false positives, and it performed no better at accessibility testing than monkeys would. If I was to give a monkey a rule, say checkpoint 1.1, is the alt text meaningful? They would get it right half the time. Press button 1, yes, violation. Press button 2, no violation. Unfortunately, the result would be the same for tools, our tools. And no wonder developers were passing on accessibility. We see it today. If you try to push the technology too far, as we are seeing in the market, you end up with a bunch of noise and no progress. So this is when we realized that there is a need to have no false positives. We redid our entire rule engine. We restricted the rules to only the rules that produce no false positives. And the confidence level in, I think there were around 11 rules that we released first was greater than 98%. No false positives was our new manifesto and mantra. In 2015, we decided to open source our rule engine, AXCore. And today, as accessibility becomes mainstream across the globe, it has surpassed 1 billion downloads and provides 57% of testing in an automated fashion. Thank you to all the contributors and users. It's wonderful. As we started talking to people with disabilities about them too, and they started to understand what they really cared about. What they really cared about was the impact of the barriers, whether they could work around it, whether they got stuck, where it was located. Was it in the insignificant part or a very important use case, like trying to deposit a check? How often they encountered it in the real world? Was it very rare or was it pervasive? And then we started talking to businesses, and they were worried about risk, and which is kind of the same as the criticality of barriers, because criticality of barriers represent risk, with one exception. They wanted to do they didn't really want to get to the best practices at the time. You UX people out there are changing that. Next, we started talking to developers. They told us they cared about how fast and reliably they could get to and find the issues, meaning maintain velocity while eliminating risk. What we also found is, next, let's go to the next slide, is that 15 of the success criteria out of 50 plus resulted in 95% of all errors. The remaining 35 success criteria only resulted in 5% of errors. So think about the 80-20 rule. 6 success criteria equate to 80% of all issues found out there in the wild. You can learn more about this in our automated accessibility testing coverage report on dq.com. So now let's just plot the social factors, risk, the barriers on one axis and the business factors on another. A couple of years after we released AXCore in 2017, we started noticing something. We started to see Axe clean websites. And issues caught by AXCore, like ARIA, color contrast, and things like that, started getting fixed, started moving over to the clean access, to the easy to find, easy to fix access, up. In 2021, we added to the Axe rule set with intelligent guided tests and started seeing the same pattern. Oh my God, the keyboard issues started catching up and getting fixed. Then those interactive element issues, page structure issues. We started to see a lot of people actually fixing. And the whole world, as we used to see it, the we and them, changed over time, given the right human-centric approach. The approach of finding issues that were the hardest to test for, were the worst barriers, and were the most prevalent. And we started to see progress. Now, while DQ started working on leveraging AI in 2018, only in 2021 was it mature enough for us to use it in production. And since then, AI has advanced to where it is, well, completely overhyped, but where we remain super excited that with the correct approach, it will revolutionize accessibility and help us achieve our mission of digital equality in 2024. Over to you, Dylan.
Thank you, Preety. We're really excited about the advances that have been made in accessibility in AI, and we're really excited about the impact that AXCORE has had. And the 30,000 attendees today are testament to the impact that AXCORE has had or helped to have within the industry. So let's talk about AI for a little bit. And Google, and what is the correct usage? Preety said that with the correct application of accessibility, we're excited about the impact that can have on of AI, what effect that can have on accessibility. So, for example, Google has a way of measuring what they consider to be the principles to which by which accessibility should be measured. The first principle is it should be socially beneficial. The second one is it should avoid creating or reinforcing unfair bias. So some of the things that Ruman talked about this morning are topics that need to be taken into account there. It should be built and tested for safety. It should be accountable to people. It should incorporate privacy design principles, uphold high standards of scientific excellence, and be made available for users that accord with these principles. So when you look at all these and you think about, well, what is the correct way or a good way to use artificial intelligence within accessibility, what it really comes down to is, what does it mean to be socially beneficial? So I've come up with a couple of examples here, and I'd like to read them out to you, and then for you to think about whether you think that they are socially beneficial. Because I'm sure the answers that you would come up with for some of these things are very different, say, for example, to the answers that, say, Elon Musk might come up with. So the first one is, would it be socially beneficial to make legal services very affordable? To make autonomous vehicles that can transport goods across the country or the world much more efficiently? To automatically respond to correspondence related to scheduling? To make movies and/or series infinitely available with infinite variety? To automate all customer service interactions? To give every student a dedicated teacher? To automate border protection? How about giving every resident of an old age home a companion whenever they want or need one? I'm sure some of your answers will differ between each other, and I'd actually like to discuss this with you in the AX community afterwards, because I'm very interested in your insights to this. But really, when DQ thinks about this, we came to the conclusion that the only way for us to evaluate what is a good or not good use of artificial intelligence was for us to measure that against our mission. And our mission is digital equality. So that's really the lens through which we look at everything. So when we do that, and we think about how AI can help achieve digital equality, there are two main ways that we see it doing that. The first one is by directly assisting people with disabilities to do things that they cannot do today. And I'm very excited about this. I'm going to go into this in a little bit more detail. And the second one is by making it easier to create accessible digital experiences, and therefore by making it easier for everybody to fully participate in digital online experience and achieve digital equality that way. But the question we have to ask ourselves is, even if things claim to achieve one or both of these two objectives, is any technology that claims this and a technology we should adopt? And how can we adjust our behavior as people that are involved in the accessibility community to make sure that the really good uses of AI are propagated and are successful, and that the not so good uses don't find traction? So let's look at this a little bit more detail here. We believe that good AI for digital equality is AI that puts the human in control. So it's AI that says, I'm not going to try to replace you. I'm going to make you more effective. And the second thing that we think is important for good AI for digital equality is it needs to be transparent. And what we mean by transparency is that when AI is being used, A, the human needs to know that AI is being used, and B, the human needs to have some control over the results of that AI to make sure that the results are appropriate. And if you take these two principles and you apply them, then doing this avoids setting false expectations. It ends up bringing the benefits to the human, and it's what we call human-centric artificial intelligence. So let's look at a couple of examples. I have up on the screen here an image, and don't worry for those of you who can't see it, because I'm going to get into quite some detail about what's in this image. But I'd like to allow those of you who can see it to look at it for a while and think to yourselves, how would you describe this image? Okay, so I took this image and I put it through two different image description artificial intelligence platforms out there. The first one is from Astica AI, and it generated the following description. In this image, we can see a large crowd of people gathered in an auditorium. Very interesting. I didn't see how it came up with an auditorium. At the center of the group is former President Bill Clinton. So that's great. It's identified a person in the picture. Standing, if I couldn't see this, that would be very important information to me. Standing with his hands raised and wearing a suit and tie, he appears to be clapping or cheering along with the rest of the audience. Surrounding him are many other individuals, both men and women, all dressed in formal attire. Some have their mouths open as if they are shouting or singing along with everyone else, while others have their eyes wide open in excitement. There are even some people wearing sunglasses. Interesting. The atmosphere looks electric as everyone seems to be having a great time together at this event. Now let's contrast that with what ChatGPT 4 said to me when I asked it to describe the image. It said, the images depicts a scene of a public figure. So it didn't tell me who that figure is. In fact, this is one of the things that OpenAI has decided to do, is to not give you the names of people, even if they're public figures that are in any images. So it's an interesting, but I think we should ask ourselves, is it a useful thing from the perspective of people with disabilities? It's interacting with the crowd. The central figure is a man with white hair, dressed in a suit, reaching out to the surrounding people or extending their hands towards him. The crowd is diverse, with people of various ages and ethnic backgrounds. That's interesting information that the other one did not give us. They appear to be enthusiastic, with many smiling faces and hands raised. So there's something that corresponds with the last system's image description. Some of them reaching out to the man in the suit as if in greeting or to shake hands. So a slightly different description of what was happening with the hands and what people were doing. Now here's something that conflicts. The setting appears to be outdoors during the day. So how did this AI come up with to come to the conclusion that this appeared to be outdoors, whereas the other one came to the conclusion that it's in an auditorium? Interesting information and an interesting difference. The atmosphere is one of a lively and positive public gathering. There's a sense of motion and energy in the scene, suggesting an event like a rally or a public speech. So what you can see with these two descriptions that, first of all, they're very rich and they're very useful, and they can provide a lot of additional information that the writer of, say, an alternative text might not think to describe. In fact, here is the context of this image, and it's an image that was associated with a tweet, and the text of the tweet was, President Clinton in his element with the people. The president shakes hands with the crowd at a Get Out the Vote rally in Los Angeles, California, and it gives the date and some other statistics and facts about the image. But the interesting thing here is that, obviously neither of the AIs was able to come up with the fact that this was a Get Out the Vote rally or what the location was. So those are things that are very interesting that the alternative text writer should appropriately put in there. But the richness of the information that was given was very interesting. Now, when I look at this image and I look at those three gentlemen on the right-hand side, one of whom has sunglasses on, what I see are Secret Service agents. So there's some things that I'm going to take out of this image that even ChatGPT and other AI with its full richness is not describing. So let me show you a different image. This is an image of Beyonce and Jay-Z, and I'll describe. Well, I asked the AI to describe that, the image, and it did a good job. But that's not the interesting thing about this image, because there's power behind the AI that goes beyond just getting a description. These AIs actually have the capability to be sort of like a search engine for images. So, for example, I asked the open ChatGPT a question that came up when I was having a discussion about this sort of technology with a blind person when I was in London. This person said to me, "You know what I really like to know when I see and obviously see a photograph of a woman? I like to know what color the nails are." And so I asked ChatGPT, "What color are Beyonce's nails?" And the answer was, "In the image, Beyonce's nails appear to be painted a bright red color. And that is, in fact, what the color of her nails." So then I asked it another question. I said, "What is Beyonce wearing?" And it answered, "Beyonce is wearing a black ensemble that includes a jacket with silver-studded embellishments. The jacket features a white collar and cuffs, adding a contrasting detail to the outfit. She complements her look with a large, white, wide-brimmed hat. Her accessories include," it goes on. I don't know why it's cut off here on the slides, but it describes her dress style as being a quote-unquote Western dress style that is obviously comes from the fact that she's wearing a Stetson hat. So it describes the rings that are on her fingers, one of them being a diamond ring, etc., and etc., etc. So the degree of detail that it gives me and the ability for me to ask it additional questions about the image is a fundamentally different and unprecedentedly powerful feature for people with disabilities, particularly people who cannot otherwise perceive this image visually. So let me now play a video for you of a colleague of mine at DQ, Patrick Sturtevant, and his reaction to how this sort of technology has changed his life.
Hi, this is Patrick Sturtevant with some thoughts on a recent release of the Be My Eyes app for iOS. So now Be My Eyes can not only connect you with a live attendant to assist you, it can also describe images using their very powerful AI engine. I say very powerful because we've had AI helping us describe images for many, many years now, and it's been good, but this new version is really great. I liken it to going from black and white to color television. I'm always amazed every day when I use it, what new information it's going to provide me. I was looking at the mail, and not only did it tell me where the letter came from, it told me that my address was behind a clear plastic window. It told me the postmark date. I was reading one letter, and it told me having trouble reading letter because print is very faint. Very useful. AI engines now know all about texture. They can tell you when something is upside down, which if you're blind, sometimes that's really important when you want to hand someone something the right way. I can walk out into my front yard and now take a picture of what's going on in my world and be told things like, it's a clear blue sky, it's winter time and spring is coming, the sun is shining, all kinds of interesting details that we never had before. I'm really excited about where AI is going. Having the choice between AI to assist me or a volunteer is very powerful. And I only see more great things coming from both human assistance and artificial intelligence. Hi, this is Patrick Sturtevant with some thoughts on a recent release of the Be My Eyes app for iOS.
Didn't know how to get it back. But this is
Hi, this is Patrick.
This is a very powerful capability. And once again, as Roman pointed out, the descriptions that are being and information that's being presented here is still subject to bias. If there's biases in these models, then the descriptions are going to reflect that bias. But I think putting the human in control allows us to get a huge benefits, as pointed out by Patrick, life-changing benefits and richness of human experience And this sort of capability not only covers images, it extends itself to music, to combinations of images and sound as well. So this ability to get rich descriptions and query the AI and in ways that an alternative text or a caption writer or a video description writer would never think to be able to do is just potentially life-changing. So I think we should really be excited about the helpful human-centric uses of this sort of technology. So what are some of these examples? Well, one way to use this technology for images would be to auto-generate text that then the editor or the writer can edit. So you're making the human more efficient. You're giving them something that they and that so that they don't have to write everything themselves. But once again, you're not just putting that alternative text out there and with the expectation that this is really a description that is accurate. The second thing is to build this technology into assistive technologies so that on the command of the person with a disability, they can get to generate a description on demand when the description is not present, or even if the description is present, to get richer information about that media, that image, that audio is a fantastic capability. This, as I'll point out in my next slide, is already starting to happen, but I'm also hoping that more powerfully, these assistive technologies will also allow the user to ask questions about the images, the videos, the audio that is part of that digital experience to really enhance their experience of digital online life. So two examples of this. We've talked about Be My Eyes. Patrick mentioned how he uses it and how it's changed and how it's getting more and more useful as the technology advances. And there's also some NVDA plugins. There's a plugin called AI Content Descriptor that works with ChatGPT-4 that provides a rich description of images. And I hope that there'll be a lot more innovation around how we can use these technologies to enhance the digital experience of people with disabilities. Okay, so what are some potentially harmful uses? Well, the same technology can be used in a very similar way, but in a way that is potentially harmful. So once again, if we use this text description capability to auto-generate text embedded into the application without telling the user that what they're encountering was in fact generated by AI, then we open ourselves up to the sorts of errors or differences that we saw in those two different descriptions becoming something that the user takes as verbatim, and it can be misleading. In those instances, they were mildly misleading, but they could be things which lead to the experience being bad, or the experience being blocked, or to somebody coming to conclusions that are false about the information that they are being presented. A second bad way to use, or potentially harmful way to use this, is to auto-generate by a browser on assistive technology without any indication that the text is coming from AI. So I think you can see the theme here. As long as we're transparent about this, and as long as we put the human in control of these technologies, they can really be life-changing and very powerful. So the second big way that I talked about earlier on about how AI can help us achieve digital equality is by making it easier for us to create accessible digital experiences. Because regardless of this great new ability to really interact with and query information in ways that was not possible, it's still much better for us to provide an accessible experience up front, because even just making media and images more accessible doesn't solve some of the other barriers that there are in making the full digital experience accessible to everybody. So we need to try to leverage these capabilities to help us make these digital experiences accessible from the start. So there are six main ways that we see this technology helping. The first one is in object detection. And what object detection can do, I'll show you in quite some detail. The second one is speech to text and text to speech technologies. The third is in image descriptions that we've talked about already. The fourth is using LLMs to do code generation or code remediation. And the sixth one is in using LLMs to answer questions to help people learn accessibility more quickly. So let's look at object detection. This is an example of DQ's object detection model, which is based on sort of open source models that are out there, but which we've tuned specifically to allow it to be really good at being able to detect objects within user interfaces. I'm showing a screenshot of Walmart's webpage, and I'm overlaid on that screenshot are all of the objects in the UI that our object detection model has detected. And as you can see, for those of you who can see the screen, you will notice that every single part of the screen has some sort of red box around it. And associated with that red box is a confidence and a prediction as to what sort of user interface object that is. So I just want to point out a couple of them. On the top left, you can see a drop-down combo box. Scattered throughout the UI, you will see various different types of buttons. And you'll even see in the bottom left that a modal has popped up, and the AI has detected that as a modal. So very rich ability to identify all these objects in the user interface. Moving to a different website, you will also notice that this website has tabs, and it has menus at the top. And all those menus have been detected, and the tabs have been detected, and the AI has also been able to detect that one of the tabs is a selected tab. It's also been able to detect the search input field in the top of the header of the screen, and it's been able to detect the navigation bar in the header as well. So what do you do with this sort of capability? If you can detect, in near real time, what the objects on the screen are, does this mean that you should automatically raise issues? What happens if you find what looks like a button, but it's marked up as a link? Is that something that you should then automatically raise as an issue? What if you find something that looks like an interactive element, but it's not marked up semantically at all? So at DQ, we asked ourselves this question, and we ultimately came back to Axe Core and what it is that's made Axe Core so successful. And Preety talked about this earlier in her introduction. And really with Axe Core, it's about zero false positives. So unfortunately, the AI technology is not yet quite there, where it's able to do that sort of determination and just automatically raise issues. We are working on it, and we are getting closer and closer to that. But in the meantime, what we decided to do was take a human-centric approach. There's a lot of value that we can provide. And if we just ask a human a simple question where we find something that looks suspicious, then we can turn something from being very complex. For example, being able to do testing for accessibility for tables is something that's quite complex and requires a lot of knowledge about how to use screen readers and other assistive technology devices, what sort of tables there are, and how those tables must be marked up to be accessible, and then also how to use something like a screen reader to navigate those tables to find out whether they are in fact working correctly. But with the application of this object detection, we can first of all detect all of the tables on the screen. And then when we look at the tables, we can detect what we think are things like header cells and contrast those from things that we think are data cells. And then we can match that up with the actual semantics. And instead of just automatically raising an issue, which would potentially be a false positive, we can then ask the human, hey, we think that this cell here is not a data cell. We think it's a header cell. And with one click, the human can then answer that question, and the rest of the testing can be done automatically once again. And if there is an issue related with that, that issue can be raised and cataloged without any additional knowledge being required. So this is an example of taking some of these advances in AI and applying a human-centric approach to make the human much more effective at doing the testing. And we take something that requires months, potentially years of learning in becoming an accessibility expert in all sorts of areas, tables, forms, interactive elements, and we turn it into simple questions that anyone, even if they have zero training in accessibility, can answer so that they can do all the accessibility testing themselves and fixing without having to be an expert. So for the first three things I talked about earlier, object detection, speech to text, and image description, a really great human-centric approach is to suggest semantics to the tester or creator, and then allow them to make the final decision, generate captions for editing, generate alt text for editing, but ultimately allow the human to make the decision themselves. So let's look at LLMs for a little bit. So I was very pleased to see recently when I opened up ChatGPT that the first thing it did was, when I opened it up, was give me a warning to say, well, we ask us anything you want, don't give us any personal information, but check your facts. And the check your facts thing is really important because what it's essentially saying is ChatGPT, OpenAI acknowledges that the ChatGPT is going to hallucinate, and it's going to give you stuff that's quote unquote statistically relevant, but statistically relevant, as pointed out by Raman in the keynote earlier this morning, doesn't mean that it's accurate or that it's good. So knowing that as you go in is very important. I took, for example, yesterday, I did this originally in my the first time I presented this at M-Enabling, I did this on ChatGPT 3.5, and the results were much worse. But yesterday I took this markup, which is an unordered list with role equals tab list. Within that, there's two list items with role equals presentation. One of those has aria selected equals true, and one of them has aria selected equals false. And within each list item, there's an anchor with a role equals button, a tab index equals 0, and some content. Clearly, what the programmer is trying to do here is create a tab control. But what they've done is that they've mixed up the interactive role, which is the anchor, with the non-interactive role, and they've put aria selected onto the non-interactive role in between the tab list and the button. And instead of having role of tab on the anchor, they've got role of button. So they've got a couple of aria problems here that will make this, if not difficult, impossible to use, at least difficult to use for a user with a screen reader. So I asked ChatGPT, please fix this inaccessible content. And each time I asked ChatGPT this question with the same markup, it gave me a slightly different answer. But all the answers varied around a theme. And what it did was surprisingly good, particularly in comparison with ChatGPT 3.5, but it still made mistakes. For example, as you can see in the markup here, it has added an href JavaScript void onto the anchor. It has, however, fixed the general markup of the tab list itself by adding role equals tab onto the anchor instead of role equals button, by moving the aria selected onto the interactive element, and by adding the aria controls attribute and a tab index so that the active tab can be tab focusable and the non-active tabs can be non-tab focusable. And it did tell me to add the JavaScript to allow the tabs to be manipulated with the keyboard. But then what it did is it added the tab panels to the markup, and it introduced some pretty bad errors. In the first thing, which probably would have been picked up by any developer, was that it hid both tab panels, so that none of the tab panels, even the one for the selected tab, was not visible. But more worrying from an accessibility point of view is that it added an aria labeled by attributes to those tab panels that it was supposed to point back to the tab itself, but it forgot to add the ID to that tab, so that aria labeled by is now empty. And this So it's fixed some accessibility issues and it's introduced some new ones. And so, unfortunately, what you're seeing here is exactly what Roman talked about. Because this is trained on all the code that's out there, and most of the code that's out there is not accessible, what you're going to end up with is results that really vary from each time you use ChatGPT to the next time. So the correct thing to do here is really not to stop using this technology. This technology is hugely valuable. It makes developers extremely productive, but it's really to set expectations correctly. And the expectations that should be set is when we generate code for you, you got to go and make sure that that code is correct. When we remediate code for you, you need to check our remediations for you. And when we answer questions about accessibility for you, you need to make sure that those answers are in fact correct. And by doing that, we allow this very powerful technology to make our developers much more experienced, much more efficient rather, to actually learn about accessibility. In fact, in the next session, you will hear about how GitHub uses this technology or suggests using this technology to aid with accessibility. I really recommend that you attend that session. But if you also attend the session at the end of today at 2 p.m. Eastern Time today, you'll see how by adding some accessibility knowledge to these hugely powerful capabilities that the LLMs give us, you can actually get them to generate fully accessible code. And if you attend my session, which is following on from this, you'll see how you can get answers from accessibility answers that are really accurate by applying high quality accessibility information with LLMs to achieve outcomes that can be relied upon. So these technologies are valuable. They just need to be applied in the appropriate human-centric way. So with that, before we open up for questions, what I'd like to do is leave you with two thoughts. And they really are, I think, a good description of or embodiment of where we are with AI. The first one is really positive. It goes as follows. I imagine a world in which AI is going to make us work more productively, live longer, and have cleaner energy. And that's from Fei-Fei Li from Stanford. And so that is something which I hope came across in the part of my talk about the ways that AI can really make people with disabilities' lives much richer. And the second one is sort of the more cautionary one. We need to make sure that we are paying attention to how these technologies are being used, that we are promoting the uses of the technology that are good, and that we are actively either working on or discouraging the use of these technologies where they are potentially harmful. And the second one goes as follows. Forget artificial intelligence. In the brave new world of big data, it's artificial idiocy we should be looking out for. And that is from Tom Chatfield. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Ryan to moderate.
Thanks so much, Dylan. Dylan, Preety, fantastic. The chat is alive. We have many questions coming through. Thank you so much. We've got time to fit a couple questions in. So if you haven't already, go to the Q&A section, submit your questions there, and please upvote your favorites, and we'll make sure that we get those addressed. And then if we don't get a chance to address your questions today, you can find us in the Discord community, dq.com/community, where we can address the unanswered questions. Okay, first up, I'm going to ask this question, Dylan, because it has a lot of upvotes, but it was asked early in the presentation, and I think it's an opportunity for you to maybe reiterate the importance of this human-centric use. The question states, how can AI recognize culturally significant situations? Easy with the Western world, but how about for an Aboriginal in the Great Seas performing a particular ritual? How would it know about something without training and built context?
Yeah, and I think the answer to me is pretty obvious. It might get it completely wrong. And this is where this is exactly an example of where the biases, could come into play, and where we should be very cognizant of that fact, and make sure that we're checking whatever information we think we're getting back from this. And then I think I'd like to see this technology used by credible sources of that sort of information. So if there are credible sources, and instead of going to sort of a generic OpenAI ChatGPT, we will start to see implementations where people with credible data for sort of niche topics will apply their knowledge to these technologies where where you can get answers or information that is more trustworthy. And once again, please attend my Axe Tools talk, because I'm going to be showing you some stuff that we're announcing which takes this very approach to a niche topic, because accessibility is a niche topic in the same way that sort of cultures, marginalized cultures or smaller cultures from around the world might be sort of niche topics too.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dylan. I have a fun question for you first. Could you maybe hold up your shirt and tell us what it says?
It says, friends don't let friends ship inaccessible code. My favorite shirt. Yeah.
There are a lot of questions in chat about that one. Let's see. There's quite a few other questions I think that were along the same lines of that first one. There is one in here about a Copilot blog post that I think that you read, and we were actually talking about the other day, Dylan. I think it was written by Josh.
Collingsworth, is that correct?
Yeah, Josh Collingsworth. Sorry, it just disappeared off my screen. Yeah, so folks are asking for your reactions to that.
Well, I think once again, from what I talked about with the ChatGPT code correction stuff, what Josh was doing is a much more detailed sort of blog post on his experience trying to use ChatGPT to generate some code that's anywhere close to accessible. I found it very amusing. I particularly liked one of the lines that he put in there, which is something along the lines of any reasonable developer would see that this is objectively bad code. And really, I think it's fun to read. I think everybody who's got the time should go and read it just for a laugh. But once again, I think it's just it's that balance between the power of Copilot, because it's really powerful, and just being aware that you can't really don't just trust the code that you're getting back from it. That I think comes across to me when I read that blog post. It really just underlines that point. I think I would like to say something that relates this topic, though, to the other topic about Aboriginal culture, and that is that Josh was also using a framework which is not one of the most popular frameworks. And so I think that's one of the reasons why he got some outcomes that were a lot worse than, say, if you were using, say, React. Because I think the corpus of data that OpenAI was able to train on is much smaller for the framework that he was using as well. So it's actually also a good example of, how much less powerful or how much less trustworthy OpenAI is or Copilot is when dealing with more niche technologies. And so I think it's a cautionary tale for that as well, not just for accessibility.
Thank you so much, Dylan, Preety. Fantastic session. Everyone who attended, thank you so much for the amazing chat and helpfulness that you're all offering one another. Again, dq.com/community. There are a lot of questions that we couldn't get to. So join us over there if you'd like to continue to network with us. Thank you all for attending.